Do you know someone who instantly turns their head when a camera comes out, or avoids mirrors like they're staring into something dangerous? What if I told you their reaction isn't about vanity, it's about psychology, and the reasons behind it are way more fascinating than you think? Most people glance at mirrors casually, fix the hair, adjust the shirt, done. But for some, looking at the reflection feels uncomfortable. Not dramatic, not fearful, just deeply uneasy. The same goes for photographs. They cringe, avoid, or say, no, pictures please. Today, we're breaking down the real psychology behind this behavior, from self-image to cognitive biases to emotional memory, and why some people feel like mirrors are more like confrontations than reflections. One of the strongest psychological explanations comes from psychologist E. Torrey Higgins and his self-discrepancy theory. It says people carry three versions of themselves: the actual self, how you are; the ideal self, how you want to be; and the ought self, who you think you should be. For some people, looking in the mirror creates a moment of collision between these selves. It's not that they dislike their appearance, it's that the reflection reminds them of who they're not. This creates mild but uncomfortable emotional tension, which the brain naturally tries to avoid. The brain is wired to overestimate how much others notice us. This is the spotlight effect, a term from research by Thomas Gilovich at Cornell. People who avoid mirrors or photos often imagine being judged or scrutinized, even when no one is actually looking. So even a simple selfie triggers self-consciousness. Mirrors create a sudden shift from doing to being watched. In psychology, this is called self-focused attention. Research shows it can intensify emotions, especially negative ones. For people who already feel sensitive about their identity, appearance, or expression, a mirror becomes a moment of heightened awareness they'd rather skip. Some people don't avoid mirrors, they avoid the feeling connected to them. For example, a mirror that reminds someone of a time they felt insecure. Photos that trigger memories of being criticized, compared, or judged. Even if the person doesn't consciously think of these moments, the body remembers, and the avoidance becomes automatic. Social psychologist Robert Zajonc showed that we tend to like things we see more often. Here's the twist. We see ourselves in mirrors reversed, but photos show us how others see us. So the brain thinks, why do I look weird? But it's not weird, it's unfamiliar. This mismatch creates discomfort, which makes some people avoid photos altogether. Studies in body image psychology show that when people see their own reflection, they often shift into observer mode, judging themselves from an external point of view. This is common in people who grew up being criticized or compared, especially about appearance. Cultures that emphasize modesty, humility, or emotional restraint often produce adults who feel uncomfortable focusing on themselves visually. Mirrors and cameras feel like acts of self-importance, something they've learned to avoid. They're not shy. They just predict they'll dislike the photo anyway. Their brain jumps ahead to embarrassment, so they'd rather avoid the entire experience. They don't hate how they look, they just don't like the experience of analyzing themselves. A mirror forces attention inward, and for some, self-reflection is emotionally intense. Someone who was teased about a photo at age 10 might avoid cameras at age 30, not because they remember the moment, but because the body still responds with discomfort. Instead of staring at flaws, try glancing at function, like, do I look like myself? Not, what is wrong with my face? The mirror exposure effect works in your favor. Seeing your face more often, non-critically, reduces discomfort over time. Instead of saying, I look bad, ask, why does this feel uncomfortable? You may discover the issue isn't the mirror, it's self-judgment. Photos and reflections are snapshots, not definitions. Mirrors don't show who you are. They show a moment, one expression, one angle, one fraction of a second. And photographs? They're even less. People who avoid mirrors or cameras aren't afraid of their appearance. They're reacting to a mix of memory, identity, and unconscious emotional patterns. But the moment you understand the psychology behind it, those reflections become less threatening, and maybe even invitations to see yourself with more kindness. Because sometimes the hardest thing to look at isn't your face, it's your relationship with yourself.